Get lucky. Or it might give you a certain method of bomb driving yourself. So. Thanks. Should we be on like 200 lines of code at this point?
I don't know that I have a line count of how much code you should be at. That seems a bit excessive. So getting started today, I'm finding, I think that we need to spend another day or so talking about the project. So we're not gonna really start strings until Thursday, which means that there's no labs for strings this week. If you notice on the content page, which I forgot to actually make visible until right before I came down here. So sorry, been one of those weeks. Anyway, the content page for this week only has a participation assignment from Zybooks listed in it because I'm not giving you any labs to start before spring break. So I want you to go into Zybooks and start doing the reading. I did not activate any of the challenges or the labs in Zybooks for strings. All you're doing is reading and going through the examples in the text. So my gift to you before spring break is to give you an easy week. Theoretically, you have to finish your project and you have to do some reading. Huh? Did I put a test? I didn't put a test this week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait and give it to me back from spring break.
Yay! What we'll do.
I decided to be nice this week.
Reminding you.
Look, he's trying to talk me into giving y'all a test. So, y'all can all go yell at him later.
Wise.
On Monday after spring break, I'm gonna open the tests because let's face it, we all need a mental break. I need a mental break. You need a mental break. I have to go visit my in-laws over the break, so I'm gonna do some grading and get your tests all set up and all that stuff. Wait a minute, y'all know the test opened already. The test opened last week. Yeah, never mind. Y'all are taking the test.
I didn't do that.
Confuse
She reminded herself. I didn't. She already did.
My other class, I pushed the test back.
Push out.
No, you have all this week to take that test. I already have people that have taken it and done well on it and gone on. There are a couple of questions that reminded me. There are a couple of questions on the test that are screwed up, and it asks you to pick all the lines, and it only lets you pick one. I will go through after y'all are all finished and just give everybody credit for that question, as long as you got at least one of the lines. If it says pick multiple lines and won't let you, pick one that is correct and you'll get full credit for it. I just have to hand grade it. Sorry. I am so confused today. Can you tell that I am so confused today? All my classes are running together and I am so sorry. So the test is open. It's on the calendar. You have all this week to take it. It's a multiple choice test. A couple of fill in the blank questions, maybe, one or two words. It's not that big a deal. All right. Oh, man, brain. Get it together, Tracy. Sorry. All right. So let's go back to the content page because I'm obviously crazy. And last week, which was I put the exam 2 there. I wish there was a way that it would show up on both weeks because the due date's next week. Right, the due date was for the following week, so I wish it would show up on both weeks. All right, it is on the should be on the calendar though, right? You go to the course day calendar. Does the test show up on the calendar? Okay. Well, that week's over. Let's just move it. Let me move it.
Is there one more test before the final? This one plus one?
There's 4 tests total. The final is the 4th test. So there'll be, this is test 2, so there'll be 1 more test and then the final. And why is it that way? Because everything in here is comprehensive, so I didn't feel like I needed to make a super comprehensive final. You should just take a normal size test. That being said, strings we're going to start this week on Thursday. We'll finish them up when we get back. List is not that long a chapter. It's also only partial part of the chapter because I made a bunch of it optional. So we'll start strings Thursday. We'll finish them up and move into list. I'm not giving you a separate lab on strings because we already did ASCII art and stuff with strings. I just want you to have a little more information. Does that make sense? Then we'll work with some lists, how to play with lists and create lists and do things with lists. And then we'll talk about project 3 soon. And then project 4 is files. But I have this extra week down here that we really don't need for the final project. So I may move it up for project 3 to give you 2 weeks to work on project 3. Because I think project 3 is more time consuming than the final project. And then of course, the last week is just the final exam. So this is one of those weird weeks. All right, that being said, that's the plan. I'll get this calendar all straightened out over spring break. I did go ahead and move exam 2 into this week for everybody to see on the content page, where you won't be as confused as I am about a test that didn't show up on the content page. But as far as project 1 goes, or project 2 goes, you guys are getting hung up on the turtles. The triangles. It's gonna be a long day. Y'all ever have days where your brain and your mouth just don't work together?
Yep.
It may be an age thing. Some of y'all may be too young for those problems. All right, so let's go down here and look at part 2 again. And you have to draw these triangles, right? Now, depending on how you draw your triangle, this can be easy or hard. And there's a reason we gave you pictures. Examples of what we want the output to look like. There's a reason for that. It's a hint. The triangles work easier if you draw them as you see them. Because if you draw this triangle with the if you draw the triangle with the flat top, I'm gonna learn to draw one day. If you draw your triangles flat on top, flat down, and then the diagonal this way, it makes it easier to move your turtle to the right location for the horizontal line, right? Right?
And I think I did it backwards or something.
You're right. So if your turtle starts here and you make sure he's facing this direction when he starts, huh?
You gotta see what I did later.
Okay. Then he moves over, he turns right, he goes down, he turns, he comes back up. Then your last move and draw a triangle should be to make him face back that direction. So then when you write your loop, the last thing after it draws a triangle is move it over 50 or however many and draw the triangle again. Some of you are way overthinking this. So let me get a blank page to write on. I need something to draw on. Yeah, it's Pi Day. So let's see if it'll let me write in this window. Yeah, okay. So Word documents don't let me draw it. So if I've got my turtle right here, right?
Right.
We'll put his little head over here. Okay, art with the smartboard pens is really hard. If he's facing this way and I draw a turtle, I've got forward, turn right, forward, turn 135 or something.
Yeah.
Forward. And then I need to calculate this turn as my last step. Then he's facing that way again. Right? So the first thing I would suggest you do is create a function to draw a triangle.
Right.
Once it consistently draws you the triangle exactly the way you want it, then you can make a loop and call that function, right? So you can have 4 I in range. And the range number will change depending on how big you made your triangle. You'll have to do some experimenting to see how many you need. I want to say it depends. It really depends. I'm just going to pick 12. So say you need 12 triangles to go across the top of your screen, right?
That is how you do it.
Right.
Okay.
Then in here, I'm going to have probably, yeah, in here, before this, I'll have a go-to put it in at this place. I want the first triangle to start, right? And then in here, I'm going to call draw triangle. And this is all pseudocode. This is not Python code. And then I'm going to, after it's drawn the triangle, I'm just going to tell them to move however many pixels my triangle is wide, move some distance. And then it's going to loop again and draw the triangle and move some distance, right? So theoretically, this should draw a triangle, move, draw a triangle, right? Okay, so instead of move, the command actually would be what, forward? If he's facing the right direction, you just have to tell him to go forward. If this was 50 pixels, I have no idea what it would actually be. You just tell it to move forward 50.
50 is close.
Right? Does that make sense? How many of you did it this way?
I think I did. I thought it was wrong, but I think I did.
Right? How many of you overcomplex this? How many of you haven't got here yet?
Thanks.
Oh, I got one that hasn't started yet. At least you're honest. Okay. Part 2, in my opinion, is where you're going to get bogged down. So you're going to overthink these triangles. The questions I've had so far have been about the triangles. I haven't had a lot of questions, but I'm guessing that's because most of you haven't got through this far. Does this make sense? Everybody's with me.
Yes.
Questions?
What is it supposed to be? Because we have, is each direction or row a different function? Please say yes.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I thought it was the same.
They are different
Direction.
loops. Right. You can do them as different functions. I'm absolutely happy with them being different functions. That doesn't bother me at all. But at the very least, they're different loops. You cannot do 2 rows.
You go all places.
Yeah. I mean, you just, the math on and the logic on how to make that triangle turn and go a different direction is beyond the scope of this class. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, if I wanted to be really mean, I could say, oh, write a function where you have to pass in the X and the Y coordinate and the color of the triangle and all that stuff before you draw the triangle. No, just want you to use loops and stuff. I don't want you to have to go put a go-to in and figure out where every coordinate of every triangle is. That's a lot of work. A lot of work.
I just asked one thing, if they're all in, multi-triangle rows in each function, is that gonna change anything later when we go to the random color?
No, you're just gonna change just make sure that you have the fill color either in triangle, have it know what its fill color is.
Is it gonna know that they're all each individual one? You see what I'm
If you-
saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So this function right here
Yes.
is where I would do my fill color and stuff. So
Per row.
per triangle. That way each triangle has a different color. Okay, let's.
We can do that later if you want to.
No. Let's talk about it. Let's get a different, let's, everybody got a picture of this or save this if they wanted, I'm gonna erase. Okay, I'm erasing unless you tell me not to. But I see a camera out. This is being videotaped. I hope that all the graphics end up on the video. There's other screens back there. Huh? Okay, I thought somebody said something. All right, so let's try this again. So let's talk about draw triangle, because if you get a good draw triangle function, it will make part 2 and part 3 easier. So draw. Oh, my handwriting's horrible. Now, whenever we draw something, we have to pass in a turtle. Right? So we have a turtle. In here is where I would probably do turtle color. And the first time through, while you're doing the black ones, it doesn't matter. You can hard code black in here. Oops. And then do turtle, begin fill. Turtle. All the steps for drawing it, and then turtle infill, the B down here. Right? Does that make sense? And then you'd have the forward, the turns. If you wanted to, you could pass in the size of it. As far as I'm concerned, all the triangles, just hard code whatever size you want the triangle to be. So you're going to put some value in here.
I guess that's what I'm asking though, like, is that going to be, because that's one of the rows, are there going to be 4 of those with different 4 functions for draw triangle, or does it draw triangle?
No, there's just going to be one draw triangle function, because you can call it as many times as you need for each row. So when you come back to do part 3, then you just need to add some code and change this line to make the color random. Before that line, you put in the random stuff and you add some code there to make a random color. Does that make sense?
I think it does, but somewhere between like the drawing of calling the function every time you want a triangle and making a border.
Okay.
In a row. Lost it.
Okay. So let's switch title and draw.
I think what I have is rows as a function instead of triangle as a function.
You probably need both. Well, we probably will need to refactor your code then.
The way I've done it is would not be able to call a random color, I don't think. Per triangle.
I understand what you're saying. So in here, I did that already. We're going to import turtle. And we're going to define a main. We're going to use good coding practices where I don't confuse any of y'all. We're not doing anything in there yet. Let's define draw triangle. I'm gonna make all my triangles blue. I don't care. I'm gonna make big triangles where I can see them. Somebody do math for me. What's 100 squared plus 100 squared? What's the square root of 100 squared plus math? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Make it a calculator out. They're not a calculator installed on these computers? Very well be. Okay, I'm just gonna put something in here to test it with and we'll come up with something else. We'll figure it out in a minute. All right. All right, so this is a very simplistic, yeah. Oh, you can't see it? Yeah, let me fix that. Thanks. Better? Can you see it now? All right, so if I do this, this is very simplistic. This is only a piece of the program. It's not the whole thing. Very simplistic. But this is how I would start off the triangle. I put some random numbers in there. I'm going to test it and see what happens. Right? And I put right-hand turns in, but maybe I want left-hand turns. I don't know yet until I run it once and look at it. So I'm going to run it. We're going to save it as a triangle. Put it on my desktop right now. And I did something wrong because it didn't do anything. So what did I do wrong? Anybody? Yeah. Huh? I didn't put main at the bottom. Tell you, that's a common mistake. All right, so obviously my last one wasn't long enough because I didn't sit down with the calculator and do the math. But it drew me a triangle in those directions. It's not filled in because I didn't do the begin fill and the end fill portion of it, but mostly I just wanted to test to see if I can get a triangle on the screen first. So this needs to be a little bit longer. I don't know exactly how much. I can get a calculator out. I thought the computer would have one on it. It doesn't actually have it installed. I don't know why. So anybody wants to grab your phone and do the math for me, feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to make it just a little bit longer to see what happens.
You go back.
Can I go back to the code? Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah. So if I want it to, I'm going to make it go up a little bit here, make this, we'll give it 135, see if 10 more pixels is enough. It may not be. But if I did the math, I guess I could try doing it. And here I could do. It needs that. Okay, it doesn't like doing math in the shell, so I didn't import it probably. I don't know if it'll let me do this. I am just making things up as I go along at this point. Okay, so I need 141 point something pixels. And so. I don't know about the 0.4. We're just gonna throw it away for right now. Huh? You got 150 and it worked? Yeah, but if you do the next triangle over, is it gonna be lined up?
That's the problem. You end up with it pixeling over at the end unless you're just like dead on.
Right, so math.
Okay.
Anyway, so, you know.
Yes. Okay, now what do you do with it? You leave that? I mean, because that, you said you might use both the row function and the triangle function?
This one, we're only drawing a triangle in.
Right.
We're not gonna do anything but draw a single triangle in this function.
You have that.
So all we're doing, single triangle. What I do want to do though is our turtle, when we're finished drawing, is facing at a weird angle. We want it to go back to facing in its original starting position. And I'm not sure that there might actually be a function in the turtle library that does that for us. Or we can do the math. We know that our turtle has turned and it's going up, and it's got this other line coming in, and the internal angle is the same as the one we just did. So 180 minus 135 is 45. So 180 minus 45 is. So we could try putting that turn in again to see if we get back to where we're at. This whole geometry thing kind of gets a little flaky, and you all get mad at me because I make you do math, but you know, it's good for you. It's true. We're exercising your brain. Let's see what we got now. Hey, look, the turtle's facing the right direction again, right? Now that I know that this is what my turtle does every time it draws me a triangle, I can go create another function called draw top row or draw whatever row of triangles you're on. And I just have to tell the turtle to pick its pin up and go to the next place and call draw triangle. That makes sense? So let's let's do it. Let's do the code just to prove that I'm right, because I am right. So now, ask my husband, I'm always right. We're just gonna call it draw row for right now because it needs a turtle, right? And then in here, oh, don't forget your color. In here is where we're gonna put the loop. I'm gonna put some blank spaces in here where the people in the back can see better what we're doing. So now to draw this row of triangles, and I'm gonna pick an arbitrary number of triangles because I made some pretty big triangles, so they're probably gonna,
14.
yeah. You know, mine are too big to get 14 triangles across the screen right now. Your triangle's probably about 100 pixels wide, right?
Oh, wait, yours is.
Well. So I'm gonna, in here, I'm going to, if I was doing it on another existing picture, I would put in the position I want the triangle to go to. So just to put it at the top of the screen, I'm gonna put turtle, go to, and I'm gonna put in our, you know, our favorite numbers of -300, 300, right? Just where I'm at the top corner while I'm drawing. This will change. The go-to will have to be fixed to whatever your positioning is. And then I'm going to set up a for loop. And I'm just going to draw 6 turtles for right now, just 6 triangles right now to show you that it works. For I in range 6. I'm going to draw triangle. But as soon as I learn to spell again. And then I'm going to have the turtle go forward. Or I could use a go to, but I'm gonna use a forward for right now because it's all the same color and you just draw it around there. 100 because that's what the width of my line was. And then I'm done, right? So if I come up here, and we'll get rid of this line because now there's some ups and downs with the pen that I didn't do, and it's going to draw an extra line or two. I'm just doing, you have to do the cleanup work. I'm doing the bulk of the work. You have to do the cleanup work. So I have an error. Why do I have an error? Because I misspelled forward. I do that so often. It's not even funny. You would think I would just go automatically check that. So put the R in here. That's all you have to do to draw a row of triangles. Now, if I wanted to draw a row of triangles vertically, I just put a go-to in there and have the turtle Y change every time. Does that make sense? So we'll call this horizontal. And instead of forward, you could make this a go-to. What we're going to,
I think my triangle doesn't work in area, so I have to like, got a variation of what you've got going on. But it's not a calling it triangle function, the same triangle function in every row.
well,
It's calling it 16 times to do a row. You know,
then I think you've overthought. This is the simplest way to do it
true.
for a horizontal row. Now, to do a vertical row of triangles, you have to put a little more thought into it. So that's the reason I'm saying that you'll have a different function for each row, or you'll have a different for loop, if nothing else. I do it in functions, just keep it compartmentalized. I know now that I can make a horizontal row of triangles go across my screen, right? So I can use that function for the top and the bottom. I just have to copy and paste and tweak it a little bit on the go-to. So what I might do here, instead of just having turtle pass in, I'd have the start X and start Y passed in. And then this can be right. And then you can use this function anywhere on the screen as long as you tell it where its start and X and Y point are. And down in here, you also can change this around if you wanted to do math on starting X and Y and make one function that'll draw rows horizontally or whatever. But don't overcomplex it. If you get bored this spring break and you want to overly complex it and revise it, feel free. But if I did this and then up here, put in, now I can put in anything I want. I can put 200 in here, negative 200, 200, and it picks a different place to run them. But it's, yeah, I changed the name. So when you refactor things, remember to refactor it in all places. And see, it just picked a different location and started drawing. Now, can you see the sixth one? No, because it's off the screen. But here's this cool thing. If you run out of screen, if you press this, you get more screen. All the screen. So does that make sense? Does that help y'all with part 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I hadn't already done it my way, but I did, so too late now.
You can separate it in your way. I don't. It's up to you.
I could change it, but
I don't know about how you type the code place, like -300.
That was trial and error.
it's basically up here.
Okay.
Because in the labs we did where we learned how to draw the boxes, I sent you the negative 300, 300. And I honestly even think the directions for this, where'd it go? Where'd it get there? I'm pretty sure that in part 1, it tells you to start there for draw the this perform box trot section. Yeah,
Yeah, the row should be sized.
yeah, so it's a 300 square, so if you make that 300, 300, then this is centered in the screen. Does that make sense? So if the boxes should be sized 300, 300, and they should be centered at 0, 0, so if you do the math, that top box is actually 300, 300, so your triangles are gonna be slightly further out. I just used numbers that I knew would work on the screen. That's part of the tediousness of this project is you do have to do some experimentation to find out where you want to be at on the screen and get those X and Y locations. I think in the API also it tells you, let's see, Turtle, Python. I think it has a way to tell which way it's facing. No, that's not where heading. So turtle.heading will tell you which way it's facing. So it's 67 degrees off. You can always go turtle.home. Where if you need to know where, if you got the turtle where you think you want it and you're not sure what the coordinates are, you can do turtle.position and it will return where it's at. Just you won't want to do that. You can do that in the runtime panel. So after you drew this, you could come in here and do
Position.
yeah, I did, but I also meant to call. Never mind, just do it in main. So much easier. But you can find out what position it's in. It even lets you shortcut position to POS. But don't forget you have all these things over here, and I'm not opposed to you using them. Turtle stamp is part of part 3. I expect you to come here and find a turtle stamp. He just called it out for you. I don't remember where it was. I think I clicked on something since he said that. But it's in here. You can, and the lovely thing about the documentation is that it has a search box. And look, turtle stamp. But this is part 3. Don't do it until you do part 2. Right? Because I actually had a student one time who didn't read the API, and they created enough turtles to create their initials. I did not need 25 turtles per letter created. That makes it easy. Don't create a turtle and move it, create a turtle and move it, create a turtle and move it, just to line them all up. The stamp will work. If the initials are already drawn, you just add the stamp portion to your initial functions. You did the hard way again, didn't you?
I didn't do that part yet, because I'm not that stupid.
Okay.
I'm pretty stupid, but.
So if you look at the examples for stamp, you have a color, then you tell the turtle name, whatever you want to name it, to use turtle.stamp. and then you move forward, and you know, you just put it in what you already have. You just, it's kind of like they're turning the fill on.
Isn't that kind of easy?
Yeah,
Thought the third part was supposed to be the second part.
but you're supposed to go find this on your own. I'm not supposed to be telling you where it's at in the API. The challenge of that was to go find it in the API and implement it. I'm, well, really the hard part of part 3 is the random color in those to work. And you notice part 3 has very few points on it. It's really just supposed to be the finishing, pull it all together kind of stuff for you guys. The hard part, or the core components of it, are part 1 and part 2. All right, questions, comments, general concerns. Does everybody think they can get through part 2 at this point? You can, at the very least, get the 2 horizontal rows of triangles on your picture. You may get the vertical rows, but you can get the partial credit for the 2 horizontal rows, right? I have confidence you can figure out the vertical rows. It just means repositioning your turtle. Or think about this, what if you change the direction your turtle's facing before you start drawing the row? Because a horizontal row of triangles is just 90 degrees off. Go vertical, right?
In theory. In application, it goes, that circles all the place.
So what you could do is make sure your turtle is facing down instead of to the right when you start drawing the row.
Do it the easy way.
If you want to do it the easy way, you just have to rewrite the code to start the turtle facing vertically instead of horizontally, and it should, because they're,
No, because if based on the way you sure? Because if you turn that thing sideways, that shape itself, if you turn it sideways, it's gonna be facing this way now. You see what I'm saying? You have that.
so if my turtle, so if the turtle goes this way,
You say it's the same, I believe.
it's
The
similar.
whole thing, okay, I got you.
I'm not saying, I'm not giving you all of the solution here.
I can do this.
Well, yeah, I am. I'm not typing the code for you.
Ah. Can you?
Could I? Yes. Am I going to? No. But, so, I think today, it was a good use of today to talk you through this, because it had you started on it. Hint, hint, guys, you need to get started on it. I would not give you this much time to work on it if I thought you could do it in one day. Professors don't give you 2 weeks to work on a project if it can be done in a day. That's just not how it works. Because if it can be done in a day, we'd only give you a day to do it. Now, there will be some people that will crack open their monsters and they'll spend 12 hours in front of their computer and bang this out in one sitting. And it will be horribly written code, generally speaking. But it will be brute forced to a final result. And you will miss things and you will make silly mistakes because you're tired and you're over caffeinated and you just are completely frustrated with the whole process. Spend a couple hours on it every day until you're finished. Spend 30 minutes on it at a time until you're finished. Just space it out. Don't frustrate yourselves. How many of you, barring the one person in the back that told me hadn't even started it, how many of you have got at least part 1 mostly worth it? Oh, you haven't started part 2, okay. So it's good, because I was feeling really bad, because I think I pretty much wrote part 1 for you guys minus the initials last week, right? Right? All right, so you have the rest of this week. It's due on Friday, guys. Why is it due on Friday? Because I want to grade it over spring break. I am not extending it past Friday. You turn it in on Friday and you get the grade you get. If you don't turn it in, unless somebody is sick or you had a death in your family or you have some legitimate emergency between now and Friday, it's due Friday at midnight. I have already given the grading rubric to my graders. We've already divided up who's grading what in the class, which students are going to who. We have a plan because I'm leaving Saturday morning to go on vacation, and this is what I'm going to do to avoid my mother-in-law. I'm going to work. That sounds really horrible,
Toxic and shit,
but my sanity will be much happier this way. And I have already extended this out longer than I thought we would have to. Now, all right, that being said, I will absolutely take questions on Thursday. There will not be class on Friday. No class on Friday. You can email me, but I will not be here. CSX Lab will be here if you want to hit them up. But being the Friday before spring break, historically, none of you will be on campus. Or so few of you will be on campus that it is not. I also will be driving to Louisiana.
Also, you can't use CSX.
For part 2, you can. For part 3, you cannot. I'm okay with you asking questions. They're most likely not going to give you a very clear answer but they can check syntax for you and stuff like that. They're not going to write it for you. The best help you're going to have is go back and watch my videos again and look at the code I just wrote. Stack Overflow will give you some very complex answers. They won't break it down quite as simply. A lot of people are trying to use other people's YouTube videos. If you're going to use a YouTube video, why aren't you just watching mine again instead of wading through videos that you may or may not answer the question? Don't know, but there you go. Let me know if you need me. We will meet Thursday here. I will stay till 4:45 today to finish answering questions if you have any. I will have a PowerPoint that's going to take up a few minutes of Thursday's class on strings, but I still will be open to questions if you have. Okay, you're free to go unless you need to stick around for an individual question. If you do, stick around, be happy to help you.